What's up, guys? Welcome to Resellers Life. My name is Chris. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have Sarah and Brad. Thank you so much for taking the time. Sometimes I like to highlight resellers who don't necessarily have a social media presence. So Sarah reached out and she wanted to share her experience. And maybe I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. Maybe start with where you live.
Sure. So we live in Florida. We live in Bradenton, Florida, which is really close to Sarasota. If you've ever heard of Siesta Key, we're maybe 30 minutes from there. And what was the second part of the question?
Just introduce yourselves.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So, yeah, we've been married for 12 years. Florida's been home for both of us. We have two girls, Hannah and Sophia. They're 4 and 7. And yeah, and we got into reselling maybe a little bit over 2 years ago.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
I pretty much just support Sarah in her business, and so I have a full-time job outside of this. But as we have started to understand a little bit more about this, there's certain things that are her strengths and certain things that are her weaknesses, and so I can kind of step in and take on some of those
Mhm.
weaknesses and help support her in this effort. So it's been a good team so far.
Yeah,
That's great. So maybe let's start with what are your goals with reselling?
I'll let you answer that one.
Okay, I'll take this one. It's interesting, Chris. We really focus maybe differently than some. We really see this as a way to bring in additional income that we can drive right back into the business. And so our main focus is really on listing quantity. And so right now we sell on multiple different platforms, but on Poshmark, the primary platform, I think we have somewhere around 1,500 listings. And our goal is to get that somewhere around 2,000, maybe a little bit more. In our current environment and current space, we can certainly support that. So that's really where our focus is short term. And then from there, growing depending on how that goes. And then more long term, we're focused on, possibly eventually buying some real estate, maybe growing and expanding another business, doing some other types of things as well. But I would say that's probably it.
Yeah, and I would just add that I love that reselling allows me to remodel my home. For me, that's like a big drive, you know. So, uh, for me, if I can continue to remodel my home and do things to it, I mean, I'm there. So that's kind of my goal, and to continue to bring other sources of income as well.
That's great. So it's essentially a secondary income for you guys. If you plug the profits back into inventory, there's some tax benefits there. Also, you can take some money out for home renovation if that's part of you. You can kind of squeeze it in there under something you need for reselling. So, Sarah, how do you balance the day as the manager? You've got family duties, you've got reselling duties. What does your typical day look like?
Yeah, so that's a really hard question, but it's honestly every day it's different.
Hmm.
I just I mean, I literally I have a list of things I
Hmm.
just want to get done for the day, and then I just try to attack them. But I give myself grace in the sense that there's most of the time I can't do any most. I would say half of those things, and I just go on to the next day. Right now is crazy because of COVID, so nothing is normal. I mean, we try to set up a routine, but literally, I think when you're a mom, you just have to be so open to distractions and stuff. So or things just not turning out the way that you want them to turn out. So just being flexible and just trying to, but there are some core things that I do every day to keep the business running. But I really, right now, it's just a list of things to do and then just trying to attack those things.
Yeah, certainly. You have pre-COVID and now. So I would say pre-COVID. I mean, she would. Um, we've kind of built up a team now, more or less. We have a good friend of ours that comes over and helps her in the business, doing certain things, listing, photography. And then we also have two virtual assistants as well who kind of handle some components of the business. And then we're able to also leverage other family and support. That's one thing that I think is a lot of times you see people out there and you're just like, how can they do it all? And really, they can't do it on their own. And so we've continued to try to identify the different things that Sarah's doing and saying, why should I be doing that? Is there anyone else that we could bring in that can potentially take on that role and responsibility so you can then lean into your strengths? Chris, I know one of the books that you quote often is the one by Gary Keller about the one thing, great
Hmm.
book. And so we're constantly trying to evaluate Sarah's one thing or one things to where she can lean into those. And that's been really helpful and allowed her to manage the other aspects of the business. But certainly there's a lot of involvements with kids and activities, family, church, other types of things. But having support is really the key to being able to make it all come together.
Do you guys have an objective each week for number of listings that go up? Is that how do you set goals like that? How does it? What's the objective for maybe do the VAs need a certain amount of work to do?
So our VAs really just do the marketing for us
Okay.
for the most part, and the cross listing. So they
Mhm.
don't really list. I do have a friend who comes and helps me, and she's a mom, and she's awesome. She's also a reseller, and she's at a place where she could use some hourly income as well as doing reselling.
Mhm.
So she comes and helps me. And when she is pre-COVID, she was coming in, and we were doing about 100 listings a week,
Mhm.
4 to 5 hours a day. But that would also, I would leave to go source, and she would stay and list. So we try to aim for about 100 listings a week.
Is that each or both of you?
That's all together.
Okay.
Because I'm sourcing, I'm not always here.
I think that's the perfect mix. 50 to 100 listings a week is a really solid side hustle. If you're making, that's essentially like the average annual income for an American family. If it's at $10 to $15 profit an item, that's a lot of extra income coming in. And I think you hit it right on the head, Brad. We only have so much time, so you have to somehow do more with the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Because you hear people say, "I'll just list 5 more," but they didn't like where in the day you're gonna list. There's no more time left. You're already full, and people get really hard on themselves trying to do it all, when that's not how it works. If you see people doing more than 100 listings a week, it's very rarely solo,
Yeah.
and they don't also have household responsibilities. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very different world. So that's cool that you were able to work with somebody else and a friend, because some people can't. Sometimes that's the end of the friendship. Why are you guys still working? How does that relationship work?
Yeah. So funny enough, the way that I met her is she actually sold me a couch on Facebook Marketplace, and then in
Wow.
talking, I found out that she was a reseller, and I had just started dabbing into it. And so I kept her number and said, "Hey, one day maybe I can, you can give me some insight." And then, so we actually were never like hanging out buddies. So I think that kind of helped in that sense.
Hmm.
Now we are friends, and we obviously we work together, but our personalities just mesh really well.
You
Yeah,
know,
she
go
also
ahead.
had some strengths that we didn't have, and so she had built up a eBay store and had that going.
Mhm.
We were pretty much solely in Poshmark, and so then we were able to really start to understand a bit more about eBay through that experience. Eventually, build up our eBay presence, and then kind of move things in other directions. So I think the synergy of that was spot on and really helped for both of us,
Yeah.
all of us, to collectively do better.
Yeah, because she knew eBay and we knew Poshmark, and we were both feeding each other. So it was great.
It's funny, as I get older, my closest friends really just have similar goals to me. So you meet people along the way that become your really good friends with similar values, similar goals, and oftentimes people end up marrying their coworkers or their business partners, someone they run into. The largest Poshmark sellers met at a Posh and Sip. I'm just shocked that they
Yeah.
met over wine and became business partners. That's amazing.
Wow,
It's
that's
so
cool.
random that can happen. And they opened a brick and mortar and their own brand, all from just a casual meetup.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
So
that's incredible.
that's cool that you do networking as well. I mean, that's really phenomenal that it was like you're the customer and it ended up being
Yeah.
a deal. That's very cool.
Yeah. It was interesting how that worked out.
So let's talk about sourcing. Where are you getting the things that you are selling?
Okay, so I started out going to the retail stores, and I still do on occasion. I just don't love the prices of it. So I've started going to the bins more, and I really do like going to the bins. To me, there's just so much inventory. There's just so much of a selection here. So I do retail some, I would say maybe 10 to 20%. The rest is bins. But when I first started, it was the opposite. Actually, there was no bins for a long time. I probably incorporated the bins, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. And that's been huge for my business. And then I would do yard sales on occasion, but I don't do yard sales anymore. I prefer to stay home with the kids and be present on my Saturday than to be out yard selling.
So do you do one day of sourcing? Are you guys reopened at this point?
Yeah, we
Okay.
are like here locally because of COVID and businesses. Yeah. Hmm.
So do you do one day a week of sourcing, or how do you break that down to find time to do that?
Yeah. So pre-COVID, I was going almost every day.
Okay.
I would come into the shipment and do some tweaks and kind of direct the day. And then I would go source. But I don't know that I will go back to that. I think there are pros to it, but really now that we've started to open up again, I prefer to do go out and just source for a day or two or
Mhm.
three, just hit it hard and then come back and just list. So I'm not constantly shifting from thing to thing.
I would agree. I think compartmentalizing, doing 2 days of sourcing should be enough.
Mhm.
And then if you are looking for help, because I hate the Goodwill outlet, but I also love the Goodwill outlet.
Mhm.
So I have people that help me source there, and I
Mhm.
found better results with a whole day than
Mhm.
go every day for an hour or every day for 2 hours. It seemed to get a higher quality if you're just there all day, kind of get an idea of the flow. And it is insane. Here we have 5 Goodwill outlets within 2 hours,
Mhm.
and then they're all packed. Like I'm not aggressive enough to get anything, so I need to have somebody that goes in there because you need to be a shark. It's not easy.
Oh yeah, Sarah will smile, but she can get scrappy if needed. So she can
I'm
hold her own.
I never get
Not my
scrappy.
place, Chris. Not my place.
I
But
can't get in there. It
she
just
can make it work.
Um, okay, so let's talk about maybe a switch direction a little bit. Let's say I showed up next week for a week to help you for 10 hours or 20 hours. What would I be doing for you?
Babies.
Assuming, go ahead, besides babysitting. What would be babysitting?
No, not babysitting. We have someone who helps us with that. So we thought about this and we knew that you were gonna ask us this question. And we said because of who you are and the knowledge that you have and the expertise and just you're so analytical, we would have you evaluate our business
Mm,
and tell us what we can be doing better or what we need to let go of. But say you didn't have that, you're just someone who's hardworking and shows up at the door, I would have you list because it's not my favorite thing to do.
I got you. Yeah, and if I was evaluating your business, what I would do is just follow you around and like with a clipboard and see what it is. And it's funny because Gary Keller, in the one thing, his one thing is the standard operating procedure. For
Hmm.
Gary Keller, that whole company, that document cost 100 grand to
Right.
make. And that document is the one thing. And for most people, that should be your one thing, just coming up with the operating procedures. And
Right.
the advice of you have to have ordinary people be able to do it is so key because
Mhm.
you hear all the time, I just need to find a really good lister or a
Right.
really good sourcer, but that's not true. There's sourcing is not that difficult. Neither is listing, neither is photography. And I guess my wife gave me the example of like, you're essentially like Plato's Closet or one of uh, those clothing exchange places, and
Mhm.
the people working there are 16. Your job is not that hard. Like,
Right.
just figure, like, what are they doing? They've trained someone who can barely work to do it. So you need to come up with those systems to follow.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's really been key to us. The most successful businesses are just systems of systems. And
yep.
so as we've analyzed her business, and I'm more the analytical one, I don't know if you can tell. So
Hmm.
the way that we kind of split up responsibilities, I mean, of course, she's more visual, more creative. She's the sourcer, going out, photography, all the visual elements of what we do. But my side is kind of the back office thing. So,
Mm,
for the inventory system. And thank you so much for helping us to understand that a bit better through your videos that you've put out. But we've implemented that across the board and we've tweaked it over time, but it's, so efficient now. We can pull items and we actually have them all here at our home. And we can pull items in seconds, whereas before it would take us 20, 30 minutes at times. So when we have 20 listings or 20 sales going out in a morning or more, I mean, it would just taking up so much time. So implementing some of those changes has been really important. And then also, I think a lot of my side is just more of the vision, because I'm not as involved in things. Um, I can make, we'll call them suggestions, and sometimes Sarah likes them and other times she doesn't. And then but we're able to really think about, okay, how can we do this a bit more efficiently? Where else should we be going? How can we take what we've already done and be able to leverage that into other communities and the like? So it really kind of works out well.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, going back to your first question, is it's all about systems. I mean, everything. The reason we can do what we do is because we've set up systems. You know, Brad's helped me to think that way, where I never thought that way. I mean, I was a hot mess, and so that to-do list is like, you get to it, but you really get to what you need to, because the systems are already in place.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I get like, I know my day is not going to go as I plan. So I feel like I'm at peace. The people who want their day to look like what they wrote down, and this is never going to look like that.
Right.
Every day is different.
Yeah.
Especially when you have kids.
Yeah, I'm gonna find that out soon. So yeah, that's exciting. I'm excited to see, and I've always, people are volunteering their kids for me, like, come try, see what
Yeah.
it's like to take care of 3 kids. I want to see you thrift. I'll even drive. So I want to see what it looks like. But that's definitely part of it. People are juggling different things, and you guys actually, you look happy. You don't look stressed out or overworked, which means you probably have systems to help you get everything done.
Of course, yeah. And Chris, going with that, I mean, for instance, when this whole thing hit, our 7-year-old needs to do her school online, and we're not teachers, and so we started looking at instantly, what are some resources that we have that can help us to get through all the work of my full-time job, this business that we have, and other things. And so I was able to reach out to my mother, who, they like to travel. My parents like to travel all the time, but they're not able to right now. And so they're not, and they're actually local, but we were able to set up a daily Zoom call where my 7-year-old will sit down and my mother will walk my 7-year-old for 2 hours through her lessons. And so my mom's at home with nothing to do. She's able to connect with our daughter, and we're able to still accomplish what needs to be done. So, I think it's thinking through that. Just because it needs to be done doesn't necessarily mean that we're the ones who need to do it, and what tools and resources do we have that we can leverage in order to accomplish that task. So that's really worked out well for us.
That is a beautiful thing. Because I feel like, when they say it takes a village to raise a kid,
Right.
I think that I don't want to only raise my kids by myself. I want
Right.
influences like that. I watched a group before this pandemic. I watched a group of moms. One mom would chaperone the call, and it was about bugs. It was like 9-year-old girls talking about bugs they found in the backyard.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like virtual babysitting, because the 2 hours that's going on,
Right.
only one of the moms is chaperoning. The
Right.
other ones are doing something, but they're in their homes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's really interesting that you can kind of
Amazing.
babysit from afar if you have
Right.
their attention.
Oh, and also the connection. I mean,
The
that we're
connection.
able to get, you can experience that child and be able to invest in that child without being right there in the same room. So yeah, that's a great tool.
Let's talk about what's a challenge. What gets in the way? What distracts you, and what could you maybe eliminate to make you more productive?
COVID again. I mean, I'm sure that's the answer for everyone, but
Yeah.
that's been a challenge. But other than COVID, what would you say?
Off the top of my head, COVID challenge. Inventory is not. I don't know. Help me out.
I just think just scheduling in general. When we have, it's great to have a team, but it can be a challenge to coordinate everyone, make sure that everything needs to be done when it needs to be done. Everyone has what they're working on, and so constantly scheduling to make sure that we're able to get everything done efficiently, I think is really what we're focused on. I mean, literally every night, Chris, we get together after we kind of put the girls down, and we'll have almost I don't know, a business meeting, but a meeting where we say, all right, how did today go? What do we have going tomorrow? Okay, what ways that I can help you and the like. And, I think getting on the same page is really, the most important thing.
Yeah, for sure. Scheduling help, especially right now with everything COVID, like you have to make your world fit into now this smaller world. So like what you had going on, now everything is like very limited. So you have to recreate your world and those resources. And so trying to tap into, well, who can I have help? And, being creative in that aspect. But honestly, the thing that comes to mind is cooking. Cooking is hard.
Yeah.
Cooking is challenging these days. Just with everything, that's a challenge.
So the reason I bring that, or one of the reasons I brought that up, is because you're not that active on social media. So this is something that's a time suck. I think the average person spends 2 hours on social media, and that can be a time suck. But Sarah, you're not super active on there. So how do you approach social media in general, or the both of you?
Social media is like it's I don't know, it's just never a priority in the sense that like if I get to it and I have time and I'm there and would like to engage, but the way that I kind of see social media is that it's kind of like an email. Like I want to post something, but I know if I post something, I got to get back to these people. And so it creates another thing for me to have to do. And so I tend to shy away from it, though sometimes I would like to share, but just naturally I'm more of a private person. So it's not too difficult to kind of put that aside. But also I just think of it, oh, well, that's another thing I have to do. So let me not add more to my to-do list,
Yeah, I think that she really uses it more or less as a tool to get information that she needs when she needs it. So, if we're looking for a service or what have you, she'll throw that out there and ask her friend community on Facebook, so things like that. But as far as building a presence goes, we really wanted to just work on developing her business right now, and eventually that may be something that we tap into. One of the things that we and the reason why we wanted to do this call to begin with is because Chris, you put out just amazing information and content, and that's really added so much value to us. And so it's with that heart that we wanted to return some of what we've heard and some of what we've learned, and the different things that are working for us into the community itself. And so eventually I think that'll be really the motivation of getting into social media. We'll just be able to give back, and eventually we'll see where it goes. But for right now, it's just not a priority.
Yeah, it's not there. But Chris, it's funny. I would say it's like at least once or twice a week where we'll say, well, what did Chris say about that? Or did you hear Chris' last video or his last topic of discussion? I mean, you're in our business meetings and conversations quite often. It's really funny.
It's a little bizarre to me that people are discussing ideas I come up with, but that being said, I love that. I feel like where I live, I live in the Bay Area, and there's a lot of successful women here and entrepreneurs, and they're really not on social media. And it kind of makes me sad because they're so busy. It's almost like you need to, again, find another virtual assistant or someone that can go out there and provide that level of encouragement, because it takes dozens of systems to make anything work. And building that can mean that a lot of it you're doing alone. Having to show, like if you're trying to share it with people, it cuts out like at least half of the time that you could be working on the thing. So it's almost like you need a film crew to go over how it actually looks, because people are crushing it silently without anybody knowing. So that's great. So let's talk about your one thing this week. If you focused on something, this year, the rest of the year, you focused on one thing, what would that be? And what do you think?
Okay, that's
It's the hardest question.
I know that is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, I'll let you answer and then I'll answer.
So our one thing that I'm focused on, I think we have different one things, but mine that I've been focused on recently is building up an Amazon presence. So we've connected with a few people locally, and we've been able to get have some nice contacts now. And we're just starting to get into replenishables. And so I think we have 2, and we're going to be getting a 3rd one here pretty soon. And so that's been a big focus for me. We've done a little bit of FBA in the past, but we literally had our first bigger shipment of FBA going out this morning. So that was kind of exciting. So that's kind of one of my focuses moving forward is, I would say that. What would you say?
For me, it would, obviously listing more, growing the business, but, and, just, like knowing, just really understanding eBay, because eBay is a whole animal, a new animal to us. We started on Posh, and eBay we've embraced. And you've started mentioning the performance page, and I had already started looking into that, and there's so much information there. And I'm like, I have to understand this. This is giving me all the tools and information I need. I just don't know how to digest it and process it yet. So for me, it's like learning how eBay works, and also opening up just like these little possible things with eBay, like first class international. I haven't tapped into that. I don't know what that looks like. So just really for me, it's just really understanding eBay better and growing my expertise in that, so then I can use that to grow that platform.
That's a great one thing, because Poshmark is sort of lacking in business visibility. You don't know how many views your items get. Um,
Right.
it does have a better replenishable setup than eBay. But then the king is obviously Amazon. So I love the concept of leaving the 100 item goal. If I was advising you, I would just keep that 100 item goal for forever. And it's also it's cool now. It used to not be. It used to be like, oh, you have an online store, are you unemployed? That was like
Yeah.
the joke. But
Right.
now, it's like, especially since online learning and e-commerce are like the biggest possible thing. Like
Right.
here, they're talking about canceling fall semester for colleges.
Right.
That's like $1 trillion. Like,
Mhm.
and I can't imagine wanting to like go to UC Berkeley on Zoom. Like, I don't want to pay for
Right.
that. That's ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
30 grand.
Yeah.
So I want to, that. So now that if you have that goal, if you have that going in, then you can use that money to buy replenishables, which takes more money, more
Hmm.
capital. I think that's fantastic. You guys are building a really strong foundation,
Yeah.
and you also are not in a hurry. Why is that?
Well, I think it helps that Brad has a job,
Okay.
so it's not, there's not so much pressure,
Mm.
like I make income, he makes income, but with his income alone, we live off of that. So there's not like I have to go do all this to make, ends meet, it's the pressure is off, so you can slowly grow it and take your time.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah. And I think too, we're very long term in our, because of that situation and dynamic, and no one knows the future, but because of that, we really want this to be something that we can build for the, for the long term, for the future. And so as we're my other job is working with clients who are somewhat affluent, and seeing the way that they understand things, and the way that they process things, and the way that they share that information with their kids
Mm-hmm.
is just so profound. I mean, it's completely different than what I experienced or what Sarah experienced growing up. And so, that's something else that's a motivation for us to be able to
Mhm.
eventually share that information with our kids. What is a profit and loss statement? What's a balance sheet? How can we,
Mm-hmm.
why are these things important? How do we evaluate certain decisions based on the economy and based on different things that are impacting the world, and capitalize on those types of opportunities? And so I think that's also another motivation for us as well. But
Yeah.
One
Mhm.
last thought on that is we're just starting to do some estate planning. And the lawyer was like, if you're reselling a business, your kid's not going to take over it. Let's just be honest. So what you should do is you should figure out what to do with it before you die. As morbid as that is, what happens? Does your eBay store turn into an estate sale? If you're not here, does it all just get liquidated? What happens? Have a contingency plan set up. And what you should leave your kids is like a stock portfolio or real estate, because they will actually want to keep that.
Mhm.
right,
So if you can somehow figure that out before you're gone, you also have some urgency. Most people who think about it that way also build larger businesses that are more stable. And, because like there's like something like 40,000 pizzerias and beautiful family businesses, their kids are just going to close.
right.
And that's super sad to have a whole lifetime of something being built in.
Yeah,
Oh, of course.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of
You
that.
have to think with the end in mind. And so, I think that the more that you process that type of, information, and eventually you can have those plans that are in place, it really helps for eventual transition. And, who knows what the future holds? I mean, I think in our case, we're kind of taking it day by day or month by month, but we know that we'll be able to take the skills that we're learning now and be able to adapt them into the future. And so we'll see where it goes and how it goes.
Yeah, it's for me, it's really teaching our kids the mindset of business, the thought behind it. So I think that's really what you're passing on is the mindset of, hey, looking at something and seeing opportunity where somebody might not see opportunity, and then setting them up obviously as much as you can. But it's really that for us is like a big thing is teaching your kid how to look at the world and see opportunities everywhere and then how to act on them.
That is so true. When you get any access to the affluent and you listen to them, how they approach things,
Mhm.
rarely are they in a hurry.
Right.
They build heavily on skill, technique,
Mhm.
education, community, and they work really hard together. But one thing I did notice is that they work with a smaller group of people.
Mhm.
If you are, if you look at maybe the top 1%, I used to sell Lexus. The average net worth was 900K when buying a car. Conservative though, because no one buys a Lexus to flex, just like a good car.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so people have a high net worth when they're buying the car, but an average of 30 friends, very low,
Right.
right? Versus like, you know,
Yeah.
somebody working at TGI Fridays probably has 2,000 friends.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
totally different looking at that metric. I remember adding him on Facebook and I'm like, I'm in rare company. There's only 30 people. This person doesn't, but they're close
Yeah.
Hmm.
and they know these people. And I'm like, that is very different.
Oh, it is. But the thing about it is, Chris, they do work in teams and they work
Mhm,
smart. They
mhm.
don't work hard and they work smart. I just finished the book Shoe Dog, which is a Nike
Great book.
story.
Yep.
Great book. But throughout that whole book, you can see, I mean, that they're constantly bringing together teams of people who are not the people that you would think would typically be in those roles. They're
Hmm.
pushing the boundaries. They're trying to figure out different strategies, and then implementing them and then figuring it out as they go. And that's just not something that most people are taught to do. Schools don't teach you that. Schools teach you rote memory that you turn around and you regurgitate and then you move on, and
Hmm.
then you finish those classes and you say, what did I learn? But I think that the real world, and especially a lot of the business clients that I've worked with, they bring their kids along in a way that can help them to see the various aspects of the business, to understand not only the what but the why,
Hmm.
and then encourage them to do the same thing, either it be in a reselling business, which is a great way to, again, make a little bit of extra money, but also to learn business as well, or to possibly do something else. And so that's really our mindset in the way that we approach what we're doing,
Yeah,
certainly.
our
So
little girls are like running around. They're like, mommy, I want to sell shoes. I want to sell belts. And I'm
yeah.
like, hey, that's fine with me. But she's learning that whole like, oh, you don't have to keep it. You can make a buck, and sell it. So it's that whole mindset.
It is. It's incredible. When I first started this channel 3 years ago, I met a 14-year-old, and her parents were like, very smart. They're like, as long as she sells the item, that's a win. She doesn't even need to turn a profit. We're
Right.
just like, if she just continues to do it for a while, she'll figure it out.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And then because she was interested in it, kids are into it now. They like because it's a game, except
Right.
for it's real.
Right.
Hmm.
So it's fun to watch kids get into this, using their parents' accounts and
Mhm.
learning the value of money and buying their own things, having
Hmm.
their own savings account. And that girl was like, my parents said I should save half of what I make, and I'm like, I did not learn that when I was 14.
Yeah.
That
Right.
was not there. I didn't, it's
Yeah.
just crazy looking at the different upbringings.
Yeah.
Cool. So you guys are not super into social, but how can people get a hold of you if they have any more questions or want to connect?
I don't know. I'm not really sure.
Maybe you're
I guess my Instagram account,
Okay.
Sarah Washio. I really, is there another way?
So how about they get in touch with you, and then we can
That works. That works.
No.
If you guys want to reach out to Sarah and Brad and have any questions, you can just email me or reach out to me on Instagram, or my email is public, chris@dailyrefinement.com. I'll filter them to you.
Cool.
No problem. And then, yeah, any other final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would just love to just tell the mom at home who just is really wanting to do something that gives her an outlet, to try it. I remember when I was, I was always a working person. So when I stayed home with the girls, it took me a long time to adjust to being at home. And I remember always just wanting to figure out how do I figure out getting some play money? How do I figure out, because obviously you go from 2 incomes to 1. So play money isn't as available. And I just wanted an outlet, and I tapped into this, and it was awesome. And it definitely is a learning, it's a journey, but if you're really wanting an outlet and you have 5 to 10 hours a week and you're interested in fashion, and you can go to the thrift stores and you have an eye for things, I would just really encourage you to try it, because it is a lot of fun, and it gives you a sense of, I don't know, just, you're a mom, but you're also a business owner, and that just brings confidence, and it just really helps. So I would just encourage anyone out there, mom or dad or anyone, just to really give it a try.
I love it.
And I would probably say, so many times in this business, we've come across things that instantly you get a block and you say, well, we can't do it because. And, I really have seen that as kind of on the bell curve of things. Those are the outliers. And if we can figure out how to get beyond those and, move through those, that's where we've seen the most success and breakthrough within the business. And so I'll give you an example real quick. One was when we were looking at virtual assistants, the very first thought is, well, wait a second, we have to share passwords and we have to go through and do these different things. Again, I think most people, they hit that wall and they say, all right, I'm just going to stay small. Well, we've been able to work through it. And if you will adopt the mindset of, we do difficult things, that's what we're going to do. When I wake up every day, I'm going to figure out, what can I do that's difficult? How can I overcome it? How can I solve the problem? And, and I think that doing that and approaching the business with that mindset has really allowed for us to get to where we are. So
Yeah.
I love it.
One last thing, if I can share one last thing, sorry, is, just as you become a really good picker, also become really good at picking and finding really good people and connecting them with your possible problems. So for example, like my friend who I hired, who comes and helps me, I was needing help, and I remember that she was a good person. I could tell that she had good character. She had already built a business. So I connected the two. I also hired my brother's girlfriend, to help me. And I knew they were good people. They were qualified, and they needed jobs. They were stay-at-home moms too. And so I was like, hey, I have a problem. I know people. How can I be creative? How can I connect these two people? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, as you better your ability to pick items that are going to bring you profit, also get really good at picking really good people who can help you, and then connecting the two, and just throw an idea out. Hey, by the way, could I have you come over for 5 hours and take care of my kid? And most stay-at-home moms are like, yes, I would love an extra, a little bit of money. So, explore those things, think outside the box, and really try to get creative if you're needing help.
She has 4 brothers, so we're constantly reaching out to them for help, and it kind of works out well.
That's awesome. And this is not BS, like a lot of opportunities. Like if you buy right, you probably won't lose money. There's no upfront investment really. The worst that can happen really is that you break even. And there's so many other opportunities that are more capital intensive and more shady or funky or take a lot longer of a learning curve. This one, you can just start around the house. You just need one reseller friend.
Yeah.
That's it to get started. So that's a great tip on picking the right people, and also picking people for character. They can learn how to do it. If you have a good person, they can learn, and a good attitude, they can learn how to resell.
Right. Yeah. And if it's not resell, it's babysitting. If it's not babysitting, it's cleaning or running an errand or something, you know. I mean, all the people that, which sounds like a lot, and it's not a lot of people, but we have just a couple of people that come and help us. But we had to put those things, we had to come up with who do we know that needs a job, who's good character. Let's throw the idea at them. They're like, yeah, we would love the opportunity. And here we are, and they're helping us and we're helping them. It's a beautiful, you know, connection. It works out perfect for everyone.
That
Yeah.
is beautiful. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for your time, everybody out there. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to reach out to Sarah and Brad, shoot me an email. And everyone, till next time, make progress daily. Thank you.